And the video starts now! Hi guys, it's Let's Chat with Nick, and in today's video I'm going to do my 2023 AFL season predictions. So I'm going to do the ladder predictions, the finals predictions, the medal winners, and the premiers and the runners-up. So in 18th spot we have North Melbourne. The last 2 seasons, North Melbourne finished on the wooden spoon, and with their list again, I reckon North Melbourne will probably get a hat-trick of wooden spoons, because I don't see them getting any better. They only finished the season last season with 2 wins, but they might do a little bit better. They might get a couple more wins, since Alistair Clarkson is coaching them now, and they do add some experience. Liam Shields as well from the Hawks, like he retired, then he just came out of retirement and decided to play on, and he's reuniting with Clarko at North Melbourne. So you never know, they might improve a little bit, North Melbourne, but I still have them at 18th. So in 17th spot, we've got Hawthorn. Well, the Hawks, they had a really bad off-season, as in trades. Like, first of all, they get rid of Jaeger O'Meara to Fremantle Dockers. Then Tom Mitchell goes to Collingwood. And I don't know who else left. Can't remember at the moment. Oh, Liam Shields again. He went to North Melbourne. And yeah, Hawthorn, I just don't think they're going to be that great this year. Oh, and Jack Gunston, he went to Brisbane too. Mustn't forget that. Gunston went to Brisbane really late in the trade period. So yeah, I don't think Hawthorn are going to be good for a long time now. They'll probably be on the rebuild. So Hawthorn at 17th. So in 16th spot we've got GWS. Now with GWS, they've lost a few players as well in the trade period. Bobby Hill went to Collingwood, and Tim Taranto and Jacob Hopper both went to Richmond. So they're going to be probably on the rebuild as well, GWS, because I don't see them doing that well this year. They'll probably maybe get 5-6 wins maybe. That's just my opinion, so don't come being a dickhead in the comments. That's just my opinion, but GWS will probably finish around 16th. So in 15th spot I have the West Coast Eagles. So the West Coast Eagles, last year they only had the 2 wins, because most of the season last year all their great players had COVID through the whole season, and that didn't help them. You know, they had COVID from time to time, not all at once, but players keep on catching it. So that's why West Coast didn't do that great. So there were a lot of WAFL players always filling it in for them. But in the off-season, they did get Jane Hunt from Melbourne. He's a decent player, and I reckon West Coast might do a little bit better. They're still on the rebuild, I reckon, but you know, with Josh Kennedy retiring at season's end last year, and Willie Rioli going to Port Adelaide, you know, doesn't really help much, but you never know. So I'm going to put West Coast at 15th. So in 14th spot we have Essendon. Essendon, they didn't have the best season last year, coming of the year prior to that, when they made the finals the year before. So last year Essendon didn't have their best season. But the positive that came out of it was 2 metre Peter when he kicked 50 plus goals and he won their best and fairest. But they did alright in the trade period. They got Will Setterfield from Carlton and Sam Wiedemann from Melbourne. And they've got Brad Scott as their new coach. So they might do a bit better. So you never know. So 14th is Essendon. So in 13th spot, we have the Adelaide Crows. So the Adelaide Crows, they didn't really have the best season last year either. They are still on the rebuild after that 2017 Grand Final defeat. Since then, they've been going downhill, and a couple of years ago they finished on the wooden spoon. They're slowly getting back up. So they did get Isaac Rankin from the Gold Coast Suns. He'll provide some X factor for them. So I reckon 13th will be the Adelaide Crows. So in 12th spot, we've got Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide last year, they had a terrible season after coming off 2 seasons in a row where they finished first and second on the ladder and made 2 preliminary finals. And they started last season 0-5, and they did find some form near the end of the season though. But I just don't think Port Adelaide have enough energy to make the finals. They did get Willie Rioli from West Coast, which will give them some spark in the forward line, but I just don't think Port Adelaide are up to the challenge this year again of making the finals. They could be up there, but I just don't think they'll get enough wins to get there. So in 12th spot, we've got St Kilda. With St Kilda, they didn't do much in the trade period. All they got was the premiership backman in Zane Cordy from the Western Bulldogs. And Ross Lyon is now the coach of St Kilda again, so he's returned to the Saints. And he was a really decent coach at the Saints, the first time he was there. So you never know. He could maybe bring St Kilda some success again. But I know 11th spot is maybe a little bit harsh for St Kilda, maybe to some of you St Kilda supporters out there, but it's just my opinion and I'm going with it. With Max King going to be out for a little bit during the season, I don't see the Saints doing much, and Paddy Ryder retired at the end of last year, well, doesn't really help either, and Dan Hanbury as well. So St Kilda, 11th. So in 10th spot, we've got the Gold Coast Suns. The Gold Coast Suns, well, they almost made the finals last year. They were 2 or 3 games short. They could have won more, but they lost a couple of close ones that they were robbed at. They lost Isaac Rankin to Adelaide. I don't know who they got in the trade period. Ben King should be coming back sometime this year from his ACL, and with the Suns, they just keep on losing really good players over the years to different teams, and they either have success or play better. I'll give you a quick example. Gary Ablett Jr. goes back to Geelong. Tom Lynch, Josh Caddy, Dion Prestia all go to Richmond to go win bloody premierships. Wow. Jack Martin goes to Carlton. Adam Sard went to Essendon, then he went to Carlton. And the list just goes on and on. The Suns, if they kept all those players, imagine what their team would have been like. But I reckon they'll get really close to the finals and they'll finish a reasonable spot in 10th. So in 9th spot, the team that just missed out in the finals, unlucky, will be the Western Bulldogs. The Western Bulldogs just scraped into the finals last year because Collingwood had to win in that last game against Carlton, which they did, but only just. That was the game that Carlton were robbed in, that Carlton should have made finals. And Collingwood got them to the finals by the barest of margins. In saying that, I don't think the Bulldogs will do that great this year. They've got Liam Jones back from Carlton. Like, Liam Jones, he didn't play a game at all last year because anti-vaxxers weren't allowed to play, and Carlton didn't want him back, I don't think. But the Western Bulldogs decided to take him back, and he nominated the Western Bulldogs as his preferred team. So 9th will be the Western Bulldogs. So in 8th position, I know some people think this is a stupid spot to put this team in, but then again, I'll tell you my reasons why. So 8th spot, I've got Collingwood. Collingwood, well, they only just missed out on the grand final last year by a point when Sydney beat them in the preliminary final. They were 1 point short, and Collingwood, they had a lot of luck in the season. They had a lot of close games that they've won. That's how they managed to get in the top 4. Like, if they didn't win any of those games, they would probably be around 14th, 15th on the ladder or something, to be fair, if they didn't win any of those close matches. They got really lucky in those close matches, even though it was really frustrating to see Collingwood winning them all. But yeah, they just got lucky. But I don't think it's going to happen again this year. I think Collingwood might go down a bit, even though they did get Tom Mitchell from Hawthorn, even though he's really good, and Bobby Hill from GWS, who can create some speed. But other than that, they haven't got much. You know, Penalry's getting up on, Sidebottom's getting on as well, and soon they might slip down the ladder and get some rebuild. So in 7th position, I've got the Fremantle Dockers. Fremantle, they had a good season last year. They made their return to the finals. They played in elimination final against the Western Bulldogs, and they trailed by 41 points at one stage, and they came back and all of a sudden they had a miracle win and they made it to the semi-final. In the off-season, they picked up Jaeger O'Meara from Hawthorn. I reckon he will create some midfield experience, and he'll nat Fife up in the forward line because Fife is getting old, and the Drill Brownlow medalist, you know, I don't think he can do as much now since he's getting on, and that will help the Dockers with their midfield, with O'Meara going inside. So in 6th spot, I've got my beloved Blues, Carlton. I reckon this year Carlton will make amends from the 1 point loss to Collingwood in the last round that cost them dearly to miss out the finals, and I reckon Carlton will make their finals appearance for the first time since 2013. Like, we didn't do that much in the trade period, but we did get Blake Acres from Fremantle. it can be really handy as a wingman. I put Carlton in 6th spot, and Carlton did get rid of Will Setterfield to Essendon and Liam Stocker to St Kilda, but they're not really huge losses, I don't think. We have to do it without Zach Williams this year because he torn his ACL a couple of days ago, so we're really going to miss him this year. So hopefully we need players like Marchbank and Doherty and Sard and Wiedering to step up. And McGovern. So in 5th spot, I've got Richmond. I reckon Richmond this year will have a better year and they'll get close to the top 4 again and might be back to their premiership best if they're good enough. Last year, I do admit, I hate Richmond, but I do admit Tom Lynch was robbed of that goal because it looked like it went through. Yes, they did lose, but I don't think the umpire checked it properly. So I admit Richmond should have won and went into the semi-final, but can't do anything about it now. But I reckon they'll be hungry and try go better than last year and finish at least 5th on the ladder. They did have a good off-season, picking up Tim Taranto and Jacob Hopper, both from GWS. They're really good players, so that will really help. So in 4th spot, we've got the Brisbane Lions. Brisbane, they had a fairly good season last year. They finished 5th on the ladder, or was it 6th? One of those two, and they played Richmond in the elimination final. Yeah, they finished 6th, and it was a good final, just like I said before. Joe Danaher was lucky to get that goal. Brisbane were lucky to get up because of stupid umpires, but it is what it is. Brisbane went to the semi-final. They played Melbourne that were coming off the premiership. Then Brisbane won their first game at the MCG for the first time since 2014, I believe, and Melbourne went out in straight sets. So Brisbane made it to the preliminary final, and I reckon they'll be up there again, and I'll put them in 4th. So in 3rd spot, I've got the reigning premiers in Geelong. Geelong, they'll be up there once again, I reckon. But with Joel Selwood's retirement, I reckon the midfield will probably be maybe a little bit of a problem, although they did pick up Ollie Henry from Collingwood, who would join his brother and Jack Henry in Geelong, and they also picked up Jack Bowes from the Gold Coast, so the midfield wouldn't be too bad, I don't think. I reckon they can do it without Joel Selwood now, because it was a great way to go out on a high with a premiership. Joel Selwood with his 4th premiership captain. So 3rd will be Geelong, I reckon. So in 2nd spot, I've got the Sydney Swans. The Swans are coming off a grand final loss against Geelong. They did well to get all the way to the big dance, but they got smashed against Geelong. Buddy Franklin's getting old, and this will possibly be his last year, depending on how his body goes and form as well. But I reckon Sydney will still have a respectable year and still manage to finish 2nd on the ladder in the home and away season. So in 1st spot, we've got Melbourne. Melbourne, well, I reckon Melbourne will be much better this season. They did lose Luke Jackson to Fremantle, but they have got a brilliant replacement for him in the ruck, and it's Brodie Grundy from Collingwood. Like, you can't get much better than that. Like, Melbourne now have got the two best ruckmen in the AFL. I don't think you can beat that. That's why I put Melbourne on top of the ladder. You know, Gawn and Grundy can both take in turns to go in the ruck and the forward line if needed. And I reckon Melbourne will do really well this year. Now, my grand final predictions. The teams will make it for a grand final are Melbourne and Brisbane. And the premiers of 2023 are the Melbourne Demons. I reckon Melbourne will probably win it easily against Brisbane to 136 to 73 Melbourne's way, making Melbourne the premiers and Brisbane the runners-up. Now, the Norm Smith medal will go to Clayton Oliver. The Coleman medal will go to Charlie Curnow. The Brownlow medal will go to Paddy Cripps. The MVP medal will also go to Paddy Cripps. The Rising Star winner will go to Aaron Carmen. The Mark of the Year winner will go to Shai Bolton. And the Goal of the Year winner will go to Keziah Pickett. So there you go, guys. I thought I'd do my early predictions of my AFL season, since the AFL season is approaching and it's nearly here. So I hope you enjoy this video, and please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll be doing more AFL videos in the near future. Thanks, guys.